Good evening, dear travellers, and welcome back to Snug as a Bug. I am Adam, and tonight we embark on a magical journey through the mystical tales of Christmas Eve, a night where legends and wonder intertwine beneath the sparkling stars. Tonight, we'll begin with the legend of Saint Nicholas, where generosity and magic unite to kindle the first sparks of the season's spirit. Next, we'll follow Frost and the winter spirit as they weave the delicate balance of winter's beauty and power, teaching us the strength found in connection. Finally, we'll reach the first Christmas tree, a tale of courage, sacrifice, and a gift of light that endures through the ages. These tales are steeped in wonder and warmth, guiding you gently toward peace as the stories unfold. The gentle sounds of a crackling fire and the whisper of winter winds will carry you deeper into relaxation, closer to a restful sleep. Before we begin, let us fully relax and let go of the day's weight. Close your eyes now and feel your body sink into your bed. Let your breath flow naturally. Feel the calm settling over you, a soft and comforting stillness that wraps around you like a warm blanket. Now imagine yourself standing in a snow-kissed forest. The air is crisp and clear, carrying the faint scent of pine. Above, the night sky glimmers with endless stars, casting a gentle glow over the landscape. Around you, the trees are draped in silvery frost, their branches glistening like diamonds in the moonlight. The ground beneath your feet crunches softly as you walk, and a serene silence envelops you, broken only by the distant song of a winter wind. In the heart of this forest, you see a golden light flickering gently, drawing you closer. As you approach, you realize it is not one light, but many, their glow emanating from a towering tree adorned with ornaments of starlight. Its branches hum softly with ancient energy, filling you with warmth and wonder. Feel the peace of this magical place settling into your heart, guiding you deeper into relaxation, deeper into stillness. You are ready now to journey into these timeless tales where magic, mystery, and the spirit of the season await. The legend of Saint Nicholas. Chapter 1. Long ago, in a quaint village nestled along the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, a boy named Nicholas was born. He grew up in a loving home, but the shadows of hardship loomed over the village. His parents, Theophanes and Nonna, were kind-hearted merchants who taught him the virtues of generosity and humility. From an early age, Nicholas's heart brimmed with compassion for those in need. The village was a tapestry of vibrant markets, cobblestone streets, and the sweet aroma of olive groves. Yet amidst its beauty, many families struggled to make ends meet. Nicholas often wandered the village, delivering bread to the hungry and comforting those who were weary. He would sit by the elderly, listening to their stories, and offer a kind word to lift their spirits. As he grew older, Nicholas began to notice the silent struggles of the villagers. The cobbler who worked tirelessly despite his failing eyesight, the widow who sewed late into the night to clothe her children, and the fishermen who risked their lives in stormy seas to bring food to the market. Nicholas's heart ached for them, and he sought every opportunity to ease their burdens. One evening, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, Nicholas's father called him close. "Nicholas," he said, his voice heavy with both pride and sorrow, "you have a gift, my son, a heart that sees beyond itself. When we are gone, use what we leave you to bring light to others." Unbeknownst to Nicholas, his parents would soon succumb to an illness that swept through the village. Their passing left him heartbroken, but also determined to honor their legacy. Inheriting a small fortune, Nicholas resolved to dedicate his life to helping those less fortunate. The memories of his parents' gentle guidance became his compass, inspiring him to serve others selflessly. Nicholas found solace in the small church at the heart of the village, where he prayed for strength and wisdom. The priest, seeing his devotion, encouraged him to channel his grief into acts of kindness. "The Lord works through those who open their hearts to his will," the priest told him. As days turned into months, Nicholas became known as a fixture of goodwill in the village. He started organizing feasts for the less fortunate, inviting families who often had little more than a crust of bread to share. "No one," Nicholas would say, "should go hungry when others have enough to spare." He also took it upon himself to mend broken roofs, sew torn clothes, and teach children to read and write. His actions began to weave a sense of unity in the village, showing people the power of collective kindness. The local blacksmith, an elderly man named Haral, became one of Nicholas's closest allies. "Your parents would be proud," Haral said one day, as they repaired a widow's fence together. "You have a rare gift, Nicholas. You remind us all of the goodness we can bring into the world." Despite the joy Nicholas spread, he carried a quiet sadness within him, missing his parents dearly. He would often walk to the seaside and gaze at the horizon, where the waves met the sky, and whisper a prayer for their guidance. These moments of reflection deepened his resolve to dedicate his life to their teachings, turning his sorrow into an enduring strength. On particularly lonely nights, Nicholas would visit the village's oldest residents, sitting by their hearths and listening to their tales of bygone days. He learned of struggles, triumphs, and the enduring spirit of the human heart. These stories became a wellspring of inspiration, further fueling his desire to make life brighter for everyone around him. Chapter 2. One cold winter night, Nicholas overheard whispers about a family in dire need. A poor widower with 3 daughters faced a cruel fate. Unable to afford dowries, the man feared his daughters would be sold into servitude. The thought of such a fate weighed heavily on Nicholas's heart. Nicholas, moved by their plight, devised a plan. Under the cover of darkness, he filled a small leather pouch with gold coins and crept to their modest home. The chill of the night bit at his skin, but his determination kept him warm. With a quick toss, the pouch landed inside the chimney, where it tumbled into a stocking hung to dry. Before anyone could spot him, Nicholas vanished into the night. The next morning, the family was overjoyed to discover the gold, enough for the eldest daughter's dowry. The widower wept with gratitude, his despair replaced by hope. Over the following nights, Nicholas repeated his act of kindness until all 3 daughters were provided for. The widower, desperate to thank their mysterious benefactor, lay in wait one evening and caught a glimpse of Nicholas slipping away. "Bless you, Nicholas," the man exclaimed. "You have saved my family." Nicholas begged him to keep the secret, saying, "Let it be known that God's grace provides, not the hand of man." Despite his plea, word of his deeds spread throughout the village. People began to see Nicholas as a guardian angel, quietly watching over them. Inspired by his actions, others in the village began to practice their own acts of kindness. They shared food with hungry neighbors, repaired roofs for those in need, and ensured no one went cold during the harsh winters. Nicholas's quiet generosity sparked a ripple effect that transformed the community. Nicholas continued his secret acts of charity for years, finding ways to help those in need without drawing attention to himself. He began leaving gifts for children who had lost their parents, small tokens to remind them they were not alone. The sound of laughter returned to homes that had once been silent with grief. People marveled at how, even in the darkest of times, there was always a glimmer of hope, thanks to Nicholas. One winter, a travelling merchant arrived in the village and shared tales of a mysterious benefactor who was performing similar acts in distant towns. "They say he travels with the wind," the merchant said, "leaving blessings wherever he goes." The villagers exchanged knowing glances, silently agreeing that they already knew who this benefactor might be. At times, Nicholas's acts of giving took on a poetic nature. He left carved wooden toys for children, each etched with intricate designs that spoke of love and warmth. For widows, he prepared baskets of bread, wine, and fruit, placing them on doorsteps with handwritten notes that read, "You are not forgotten." Chapter 3. Years later, Nicholas became a bishop, renowned for his wisdom and generosity. His reputation as a man of faith and compassion reached far beyond his village. Pilgrims travelled great distances to seek his counsel and blessings. One stormy evening, a group of sailors approached him, their faces etched with fear. They spoke of a treacherous journey and begged for his blessings. The sea, known for its mercurial temperament, seemed determined to claim their lives. Nicholas knelt with them, offering a heartfelt prayer. "May the Lord calm the seas and guide you safely to your destination," he intoned. His words carried a weight that comforted the sailors, filling them with a newfound courage. As the sailors set sail, the storm grew fiercer, waves crashing against their vessel. Just as despair gripped their hearts, they saw a figure on the deck, a radiant man who calmed the storm with a gesture. When they returned to the harbour, they shared their tale, swearing that it was Nicholas who had appeared to save them. This miraculous story only solidified Nicholas's place as a beloved figure, and tales of his kindness spread far and wide. The sailors built a small chapel in his honour, and many who passed through the harbour stopped to offer prayers of gratitude. News of the sailors' miracle reached the courts of kings and the chambers of scholars. People marvelled at the idea that a mere mortal could wield such divine power. Nicholas, however, insisted that the miracles were not his doing. "I am but a servant," he would say, "a vessel for the grace of God." Over time, Nicholas became the patron of sailors, and his name was invoked in every port where ships set sail. Many sailors carried small tokens bearing his image, believing they would protect them from harm. Songs were written in his honour, their melodies carrying the spirit of hope and faith across the seas. Among the many tales told by sailors was one of a ship lost in the fog, its crew paralysed by fear. As they prayed for deliverance, a gentle light appeared, guiding them safely to shore. Upon their return, they found themselves drawn to Nicholas's chapel, where they left offerings of thanks. Chapter 4. As the years passed, Nicholas's acts of generosity continued, each one performed with the same humility that defined his life. He gave without seeking recognition, believing that the true spirit of giving lay in anonymity. His philosophy inspired others to give freely, creating a culture of kindness that echoed through the generations. One Christmas Eve, as snow blanketed the village, Nicholas gathered the children and told them stories by the fire. He spoke of love, compassion, and the importance of giving without expecting anything in return. The children, wide-eyed with wonder, listened intently, their imaginations ignited by his words. "The greatest gift," he said, his voice warm and soothing, "is the joy we bring to others. Remember this, and you will carry the spirit of Christmas in your hearts always." When Nicholas passed away, the villagers mourned deeply, but they also celebrated his life by continuing his legacy. They shared their blessings, looked after one another, and ensured that no one was forgotten during the cold winters. His tomb became a place of pilgrimage, drawing people from distant lands who sought inspiration from his life. The tradition of giving gifts in secret became a cornerstone of the village's celebrations. Families would leave small tokens for their neighbors, never revealing their identities. "In the spirit of Nicholas," they would say, smiling as they placed parcels on doorsteps. The village became a beacon of generosity, attracting visitors who wished to experience its magic firsthand. Nicholas's teachings extended beyond material gifts. He encouraged people to share their time, their talents, and their love. A cobbler began offering free shoes to children, a baker delivered bread to the elderly, and the local healer opened her doors to anyone in need, regardless of their ability to pay. The village thrived not because of wealth, but because of the richness of its shared humanity. Even as his legacy grew, Nicholas's humility remained at the heart of every story told about him. "He taught us," said one villager, "that to give is to live in the image of divine love." These words became a guiding principle, not just for the village, but for the many communities that drew inspiration from Nicholas's life. Chapter 5. Centuries later, the legend of St. Nicholas evolved, weaving itself into the fabric of Christmas traditions. Stories of his kindness transformed into tales of a jolly figure who delivered gifts to children, ensuring that his spirit of generosity endured. From the bustling streets of Europe to the snow-dusted towns of the Americas, his legacy lived on. On Christmas Eve, as families gather and stockings are hung, they unknowingly honor a man whose heart was as warm as the fireside glow. The tale of St. Nicholas reminds us that even the smallest acts of kindness can ripple through time, inspiring generations to come. Children leave cookies by the fire, unaware that they're echoing the gratitude of those who once felt his generous touch. The spirit of St. Nicholas continues to manifest in unexpected ways. A stranger pays for someone's meal, a child donates their favorite toy, and communities rally together to help those in need. Each act of kindness carries a whisper of the saint's legacy, reminding us that the true magic of Christmas lies in giving. Even in bustling cities, where the pace of life often overshadows quiet reflection, moments of selflessness shine through. A weary commuter offers their seat, a neighbor shovels snow for an elderly resident, and strangers come together to brighten the holidays for those less fortunate. These small acts, though simple, carry the profound weight of Nicholas's enduring message. As the story concludes, imagine the soft crackling of a fire and the gentle ringing of sleigh bells in the distance, hinting at the next tale, a story of frost and the winter spirit waiting to be told. Frost and the Winter Spirit. Chapter 1. Long ago, in a realm where winters reigned eternal, there existed a forest so vast and enchanted that its trees stretched endlessly to the horizon. The forest, known as Aera's Vale, was home to an ancient spirit named Frost. Unlike the bitter cold that often brought despair, Frost was a guardian of balance, ensuring that winter's grip nurtured the land rather than destroyed it. His essence wove through every snowflake, and his touch sparkled on every icicle. Era's Vale was cloaked in perpetual twilight, its silver skies casting a serene glow over the frosted landscape. Frost's presence was felt in the gentle crunch of snow beneath one's feet, the crystalline patterns etched on frozen lakes, and the melodic whispers of the wind. The creatures of the forest revered him, for they understood the harmony he maintained. Without Frost, the winters could spiral into chaos, suffocating all life under their weight. Frost's influence extended beyond the forest. Snowstorms were his brushstrokes on nature's canvas, sculpting drifts and carving intricate patterns onto the frozen ground. His existence was intertwined with the rhythm of the seasons, and he understood the beauty of the cycle he upheld. Frost's touch, though cold, carried a sense of renewal, reminding all creatures that even in the heart of winter, life awaited. Yet Frost was not a solitary ruler. Deep within the heart of the forest, a hidden sanctuary housed the winter spirit's essence. This sanctuary, called the Glacial Hall, was a cavern of breathtaking beauty. Its walls shimmered with ice, reflecting light in a dance of blue and white. At the center stood a pedestal holding the crystal of seasons, a radiant gem that pulsed with Frost's power and symbolized the fragile balance he upheld. Frost's existence was peaceful, yet he harbored a deep longing. He often watched over the villagers who lived on the outskirts of Era's Vale. These mortals, huddled in their warm homes, shared laughter and stories by the fire. Though Frost's role was vital, he yearned to experience the simple joys of companionship and love. In the depths of winter nights, Frost would drift through the village in his spectral form, unseen but deeply aware of their lives. He observed parents tucking their children into bed, couples sharing quiet moments, and elders recounting tales by the hearth. The warmth of their lives stirred something within him, a yearning for connection that his eternal duty denied. Frost's longing manifested in the way he nurtured the forest. Each snowflake he crafted was unique, as though an extension of the love he yearned to share. The trees glistened with frost patterns resembling delicate lace, and frozen streams sang melodies that resonated with his wistful heart. Despite his solitude, Frost's care for the world around him remained unwavering. One fateful evening, Frost sensed a disturbance. A shadow moved through his forest, its presence unsettling the harmony of the land. Frost emerged from his sanctuary, his form taking the shape of a translucent figure cloaked in swirling frost. He glided silently through the trees, following the faint trail of the intruder. His heart, though bound to winter's stillness, quickened with an unfamiliar sense of foreboding. The disturbance was more than a fleeting anomaly. Frost noticed subtle changes in the forest. The once melodic wind carried a hint of unease, and the snow seemed to fall heavier, blanketing paths in silence. It was as though the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for Frost to uncover the source of the disruption. Chapter 2. The shadow belonged to a man named Calder, a wanderer desperate to save his ailing village. Calder's home lay in the shadow of Era's Vale, and a curse had fallen upon his people. Crops failed, wells froze, and illness spread like wildfire. The villagers whispered of a relic buried deep within the forest, a fragment of the crystal of seasons. They believed it held the power to end their suffering. Calder carried only a lantern and a crude map, his breath visible in the biting cold. The forest's beauty, though mesmerizing, offered no solace. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the forest itself resisted his intrusion. Frost observed him from a distance, torn between curiosity and concern. Calder's intentions were noble, but his quest threatened the very balance Frost was sworn to protect. As Calder pressed on, the forest grew darker. The once serene whispers of the wind turned into mournful wails. The trees seemed to close in, their frosted branches clawing at the sky. Frost decided to reveal himself, materializing before the wanderer in a burst of shimmering light. Calder stumbled back, his lantern swinging wildly. Who dares disturb the heart of Era's Vale? Frost's voice echoed like the crackling of ice, resonating through the frozen trees. Calder fell to his knees, clutching the map to his chest. "Great Spirit," he pleaded, "I seek only to save my people. They are dying, and I have no other choice." Frost studied Calder, his icy gaze penetrating the man's desperation. The Crystal of Seasons is not a tool for mortals to wield. Its power is not meant to heal one at the cost of many. "Please," Calder whispered, tears freezing on his cheeks. "I will do anything." Frost's heart wavered. Though bound by duty, he could not ignore the sincerity in Calder's voice. He decided to offer a test. "If you are willing to endure the trials of winter, I will grant you a fragment of the crystal, but be warned, the trials will demand more than mere strength." Calder nodded, his resolve unshaken. "I accept." Frost led Calder deeper into the forest, the shadows lengthening as they approached the glacial hall. Along the way, Frost tested Calder's resolve with sudden gusts of icy wind and the haunting calls of unseen creatures. Each step Calder took was a testament to his determination, though doubt flickered in his eyes. The deeper they ventured, the more the forest seemed to resist. Branches appeared to grow denser, forming barriers that Calder had to push through. Frost remained vigilant, observing Calder's struggle. Though Calder stumbled, he never turned back, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. Along the way, Calder attempted to speak with Frost. "Why does the forest test me so harshly?" he asked, his breath escaping in white puffs. "Surely I mean no harm." Frost paused, his translucent form shimmering in the moonlight. "It is not harm we fear," he replied. "It is imbalance. Every choice you make ripples through the world, and the forest must be certain of your resolve." Calder pondered Frost's words, his steps becoming slower but more deliberate. "And you, Spirit? What ripples do your choices create?" Frost regarded him for a long moment, his icy features softening. "I have spent centuries balancing what cannot be seen, but even I am not immune to doubt. Perhaps that is why I watch you so closely." The brief exchange, though cryptic, brought a glimmer of understanding between them. Calder's respect for Frost deepened, and Frost began to see Calder as more than a mere mortal intruder. Chapter 3. Frost led Calder to the glacial hall, where the Crystal of Seasons glowed with ethereal light. "Your first trial," Frost began, "is the trial of endurance. You must cross the ice fields of Aelia, where the wind cuts like blades and the cold pierces the soul." Calder's journey across the ice fields was harrowing. The wind howled mercilessly, and his lantern offered little warmth. The frozen expanse seemed endless, the sky a swirling mass of grey and white. Frost watched from above, ready to intervene if the mortal's life was in peril. Calder's determination impressed Frost as the man pushed forward, his body trembling but unyielding. The ice beneath Calder's feet groaned ominously, and he slipped more than once, his hands scraped raw against the sharp edges. As exhaustion set in, Calder recalled the faces of his villagers, the children with hollow eyes, the elders too weak to rise from their beds. Their suffering became his strength, propelling him forward. Frost descended to walk alongside Calder, his presence a calming force against the howling winds. "Tell me," Frost said, his voice gentle yet firm, "what gives you the strength to endure this trial?" Calder's breath came in ragged gasps. "Their faces," he said simply. "The ones I've left behind. Their hope rests on me. I cannot fail them." Frost nodded, his gaze thoughtful. "It is a rare thing to bear the weight of others' hope. Hold on to it. It may be your greatest ally." The second trial was the trial of compassion. Frost led Calder to a frozen lake where a lone wolf lay trapped beneath the ice. "Will you risk your life to save another?" Frost asked. Without hesitation, Calder broke through the ice, his hands numb and bleeding. He freed the wolf, wrapping it in his cloak. The wolf licked Calder's face before disappearing into the forest, its golden eyes glowing with gratitude. Frost felt a flicker of warmth within his icy core. The bond forged in that moment between man and beast reminded Frost of the interconnectedness of all life. Frost observed Calder's trembling hands and frostbitten cheeks. Despite his physical suffering, the man's spirit remained unbroken. Frost began to see Calder not merely as a mortal, but as a vessel of hope, capable of embodying the compassion that sustained balance in the world. "You acted without hesitation," Frost remarked as they left the frozen lake. "Do you not fear the toll these trials will take on you?" "Fear is always there," Calder admitted, his voice steady. "But it is outweighed by what I stand to gain." Frost fell silent, his admiration for Calder growing with each step. The mortal's resilience was unlike anything he had encountered, and it stirred a sense of hope within the spirit himself. The final trial was the trial of sacrifice. Frost revealed that the fragment Calder sought would demand a piece of his soul. "Only by giving of yourself can you save your people," Frost said solemnly. Calder hesitated, the weight of the choice evident in his eyes. Memories of his village flashed before him, children's laughter silenced by hunger, elders' wisdom dimmed by despair, and the once vibrant fields now blanketed in lifeless frost. Finally, he nodded. "If it means they will live, I accept." Chapter 4. Moved by Calder's selflessness, Frost guided him to the crystal. The fragment broke away, pulsing with light as it fused with Calder's being. The forest seemed to exhale, its balance restored. Frost's presence grew softer, more harmonious, as though Calder's sacrifice had bridged the gap between mortal and eternal. "You have proven yourself worthy," Frost said. "Take this gift and may it bring life to your people." Calder returned to his village, the fragment's power flowing through him. The curse lifted, crops flourished, and the villagers' health was restored. Yet Calder carried the mark of his sacrifice, a streak of silver in his hair, and an unshakable bond with winter. He became the village's silent guardian, revered but forever changed. Frost, now deeply changed by Calder's journey, felt a newfound connection to the mortals he once only observed. He continued to watch over them, his presence a reminder that even in the harshest winters, hope could bloom. He often whispered through the wind, his voice carrying messages of encouragement to those in need. As the seasons turned, tales of Frost and the winter spirit spread far and wide. Children would whisper his name as they built snowmen, and travelers would leave offerings at the edge of Aira's Vale, hoping for his blessing. The villagers of Calder's home built a shrine at the forest's edge, honoring both Frost and the man who bridged their worlds. Even as years passed, Frost's bond with Calder endured. On cold, moonlit nights, the villagers swore they saw the faint glow of Frost's figure standing beside Calder at the shrine, a silent testament to the enduring power of compassion and sacrifice. And so Frost's legend lived on, a beacon of balance, sacrifice, and the enduring power of compassion. The First Christmas Tree. Chapter 1. In a time long before Christmas had a name, there was a land wrapped in eternal twilight. The sun hovered just below the horizon, casting a soft golden glow over the landscape. It was a realm of unending dusk where shadows stretched endlessly and the stars glimmered like scattered diamonds in the vast velvet sky. In this place of quiet magic, humans lived side by side with creatures of legend. The air buzzed faintly with enchantment, and every leaf, stream, and stone seemed to hum with an unspoken story. At the heart of this realm stood a mighty forest called Silvara. Its towering trees were unlike any others, their bark gleaming silver under the starlight, and their leaves shimmering with hues of emerald and sapphire. The forest was sacred, guarded by an ancient being known as Silvanus, the spirit of the trees. Silvanus was a gentle yet formidable presence, a being woven of bark and starlight, with eyes that glowed like the heart of a forest fire. It was said that the trees of Silvara were his children, each one a living extension of his spirit. The humans of the land revered Silvanus and his forest, leaving offerings of fruit and carved wooden figures at the edge of Silvara to honor the spirit. They knew the forest was alive, listening and watching, its magic weaving protection around their villages. Yet few dared to enter its depths, for Silvara held mysteries beyond human comprehension. Whispers told of a single tree at the forest's center, a tree unlike any other, said to hold the secret to eternal harmony. This tree they called the Tree of Light. Legends about Silvara were passed down from generation to generation, often embroidered with awe and fear. Elders spoke of moonlit nights when the trees seemed to hum songs too ancient for words, their melodies seeping into the dreams of children. Travelers returning from its edges often shared stories of unearthly sights, fireflies that danced in deliberate patterns, streams that sang when the wind caressed them, and glimmers of light that moved as though guided by unseen hands. The stories varied, but they all agreed on one thing: Silvara was no ordinary forest. It was a place where the fabric of the mundane world grew thin, and the magic underneath it shimmered visibly. To those who lived near Silvara, its presence was both a blessing and a burden. While its magic kept their lands fertile and their homes safe from calamities, its mysteries bred unease. On quiet nights when the wind was still, villagers claimed to hear whispers coming from the forest, soft voices that spoke in a language no human could understand. These whispers, some believed, were the voices of the ancient trees, telling secrets of worlds long forgotten. Among these villagers was a child named Thalos, who grew up listening to these tales. As a boy, he would often stand at the forest's edge, craning his neck to peer into its depths. Though his elders warned him never to venture too close, he felt an inexplicable pull toward Silvara. "One day," he would whisper to himself, "I will see the heart of the forest and learn its secrets." This quiet longing grew with him, threading itself into the fabric of his being, waiting for the moment it would be called upon. As Thalos grew older, the tales of Silvara evolved from bedtime stories to silent challenges etched into his heart. He would often find himself at the edge of the village, gazing into the forest's shadowy expanse, his mind swimming with questions. What lay within its depths? Was the tree of light truly as wondrous as the elders described? Each whisper of the wind felt like an invitation, soft and insistent, and it was all Thalos could do to resist its call. Thalos's fascination with Silvara did not go unnoticed. The village children often teased him for his curious nature, calling him the dreamer of the woods. Yet the elders watched him with a mixture of concern and quiet hope. They saw something in him, a resolve that went beyond mere curiosity, a connection to the forest that few could understand. Ilara, the village elder, often spoke of Thalos with a wistful smile. "That boy," she would say, "has a heart as vast as the forest itself. Perhaps one day he will be the one to bridge our world with Silvara." Chapter 2. On the edge of Silvara lay a small village called Branwick, nestled in the shadow of the forest. It was a humble settlement of stone cottages with thatched roofs, its people hardy and kind-hearted. But Branwick was in the grip of a terrible plight. The winter had been cruel, harsher than any in living memory. Crops had withered before the first frost, and the rivers had frozen solid, cutting off their water supply. Snow piled high against their doors, and the howling winds seemed to mock their prayers. The village's elder, a wise woman named Ilara, gathered the villagers in the great hall to discuss their plight. "Our stores will not last the winter," she said gravely, her voice steady despite the fear etched on her face. "If we do nothing, our children will not see the spring." The hall fell silent, the weight of Ilara's words pressing down on the gathered villagers. Mothers clutched their children tightly, fathers exchanged grim looks, and the flickering light of the hearth cast long shadows that seemed to echo their despair. For a moment, it felt as though the air itself had thickened, heavy with the burden of unanswered prayers. A murmur of despair rippled through the crowd. Then a young woodcarver named Thalos stepped forward. "Elder Ilara," he said, his voice clear and resolute, "what of the Tree of Light? The old stories say it holds the power to heal and bring prosperity. Perhaps it can save us." Ilara's gaze darkened. "The Tree of Light is no myth, Thalos. It is real, but its power is not freely given. Many have sought it, and none have returned. The forest guards its secrets fiercely." "I will go," Thalos declared, his jaw set with determination. "If there is even a chance to save our village, I must try." The villagers looked at him with a mix of admiration and sorrow, knowing the peril he would face. Ilara placed a trembling hand on his shoulder. "If you go, take this," she said, handing him a small amulet carved from elderwood. "It bears the blessing of Silvara. Perhaps it will grant you safe passage." Thalos accepted the amulet with reverence, its weight both physical and symbolic. As he prepared to leave, villagers brought small gifts, a loaf of bread, a warm scarf, a flask of herb tea, tokens of their hope and gratitude. "May the forest guide you," they murmured, their voices tinged with both faith and fear. That night, Thalos sat by his hearth, staring into the flickering flames. The enormity of his task pressed down on him, but he felt a strange calmness, as though the forest itself had begun to whisper reassurances into his heart. "I will not fail," he murmured to himself, clutching the elderwood amulet tightly. "For them, I will find the Tree of Light." Ilara watched him from the shadows of her own cottage, her old eyes filled with both hope and sorrow. She knew the forest better than anyone, its whispers and warnings etched into her memory. "May Sylvanis see the purity in your heart, Thalos," she whispered, "for only that will guide you through what lies ahead." Chapter 3. Thalos set out at dawn, the first light of the rising sun casting a soft glow over the snow-covered village. He carried only a satchel of provisions, a sturdy axe, and the elderwood amulet around his neck. As he approached the edge of Silvara, the air grew heavy with magic. The trees seemed to watch him, their branches swaying gently, though there was no breeze. "I seek the tree of light," Thalos said aloud, his breath misting in the cold air. "I come not to harm, but to plead for my people." The forest responded with a low hum, a sound that seemed to come from the trees themselves. A path opened before him, the underbrush parting as though inviting him in. Thalos stepped forward cautiously, his heart pounding. The forest was alive with whispers, the soft rustle of leaves blending with the faint, melodic tinkling of unseen bells. Hours turned into days as Thalos journeyed deeper into Silvara. The forest's beauty was mesmerizing, but its magic was also disorienting. The landscape seemed to shift around him, paths disappearing and reappearing, the stars above offering little guidance. Thalos clung to the elderwood amulet, its warmth against his chest a small comfort. One night, as he rested beneath a great silver oak, a soft light appeared before him. It grew brighter, taking the shape of a figure woven of starlight and bark. Sylvanis, the spirit of the trees, stood before him. "Why have you come, mortal?" Sylvanis's voice was deep and resonant, echoing through the forest. "Do you not know the cost of what you seek?" Thalos rose to his feet, bowing his head in respect. "Great Spirit, I seek the Tree of Light to save my people. Winter's wrath has left us with nothing. If there is any way to gain its aid, I will pay the price." Sylvanis regarded him for a long moment, his glowing eyes unreadable. "The Tree of Light demands a pure heart and an unyielding will. You must face 3 trials, each designed to test your worth. Do you accept?" "I do," Thalos said, without hesitation. Chapter 4. Sylvanis led Thalos deeper into the heart of Silvara, where the forest opened into a vast glade, bathed in an ethereal, silvery light. The air shimmered with magic, and at the center stood 3 great ancient trees, their branches intertwining to form a canopy that sparkled as though dusted with starlight. Sylvanis turned to Thalos, his gaze steady. "Your first trial is the trial of courage," he said. "You must pass through the shadow thicket where illusions will prey upon your deepest fears. Only the brave emerge with clarity of purpose." Thalos nodded, his hands trembling slightly, but his resolve unshaken. The shadow thicket loomed ahead, its twisted branches forming a dark tunnel that seemed to absorb the light. As he stepped inside, the air grew cold, and an unnatural silence enveloped him. Shadows moved and shifted along the ground, creating grotesque figures that whispered his name. The further he walked, the more oppressive the darkness became, and soon he was surrounded by visions of despair. He saw his village frozen in time, the faces of his people pale and lifeless. Children reached out to him, their eyes hollow, while the sound of wailing filled his ears. "You will fail them," a voice hissed from the shadows. "You cannot save them!" Thalos gripped the elderwood amulet tightly, his knuckles white. "These are illusions," he whispered to himself, forcing his feet to move forward. "They are not real. I must not falter.
The shadows pressed closer, their whispers turning to screams.
Just as he felt he could bear it no longer, the amulet around his neck began to glow faintly, its warmth spreading through his chest. The light pushed back the darkness, revealing a narrow path ahead. Thalos took a deep breath and pressed onward, his heart steadying as he emerged into the glade once more. Sylvanus awaited him, his expression inscrutable. "You have passed the trial of courage," he said, "but your journey is far from over. The second trial awaits, the trial of wisdom." Thalos followed Sylvanus to a shimmering pool, its surface reflecting the stars above. "Within these waters lies the answer to your path," Sylvanus explained. "But you must discern truth from illusion. Only wisdom will guide you." Kneeling by the pool, Thalos peered into its depths. Images swirled within, his village, his family, and the tree of light itself. Yet the images shifted and blurred, some fading into mist, while others grew sharper. He closed his eyes, allowing his intuition to guide him. "Truth is not always what we see," he murmured, reaching into the water. When his hand emerged, he held a single, glowing leaf. Its edges sparkled like frost, and its center pulsed with a gentle light. "This is the truth," Thalos said, his voice steady as he held the leaf up to Sylvanus. Sylvanus nodded, his expression softening. "You have passed the trial of wisdom. The final test now lies before you, the trial of sacrifice." Sylvanus led Thalos to the Tree of Light, its towering form radiating a golden brilliance that illuminated the entire glade. The air around it was warm and filled with the faint hum of magic. "The tree will grant you its power," Sylvanus said, "but only if you offer something of equal value. What will you give, Thalos?"
Thalos hesitated, the weight of the question pressing heavily on him. Memories of his village flooded his mind, the laughter of children, the wisdom of elders, the warmth of shared meals. He unclasped the elderwood amulet from his neck, its familiar warmth fading from his touch. "This amulet carries the blessing of my people," he said, his voice trembling. "It is their hope, and I offer it freely."
The Tree of Light pulsed with energy, its glow intensifying as a single branch bent low, offering a fruit that sparkled like the stars. Thalos took the fruit with trembling hands, tears streaming down his face as gratitude filled his heart. The tree's light enveloped him, and for a moment he felt the interconnectedness of all life, the forest, his village, and the magic that bound them together. Sylvanus placed a hand on Thalos's shoulder. "You have proven yourself worthy," he said. "Take this gift and return to your people. May its light guide them to a brighter future." Chapter 5. Thalos returned to Brannick as the first snows of spring began to fall. The villagers gathered around him, their faces filled with hope and wonder as he held up the fruit from the Tree of Light. "This," he said, "is the gift of Silvera. It holds the power to heal and renew." He cut the fruit into pieces, sharing it with the villagers. As they ate, a warmth spread through their bodies, banishing the cold and despair that had gripped them for so long. The crops began to thaw, the rivers flowed once more, and the village came alive with laughter and song. Branwick prospered, and Thalos was hailed as a hero. But Thalos knew the fruit's magic was not infinite. He planted its seeds in the village square, and from them grew a tree unlike any other. Its branches were adorned with lights, that mirrored the brilliance of the tree of light, and its presence filled the air with a sense of peace and unity. The villagers gathered around the tree each year, sharing stories of hope, courage, and sacrifice. Though Thalos grew old, the tree stood tall, a beacon of the enduring spirit of Silvara. On quiet nights, the villagers swore they could hear the faint whispers of the forest, as if Silvanus himself was blessing their celebration. And so the tradition of the Christmas tree was born, a symbol of light in the darkest times, a reminder of the courage it takes to bring hope to others and the sacrifices that bind communities together. Thalos passed away in the spring of his 78th year, but his legacy lived on. The tree he had planted continued to grow, its light never fading. Children played beneath its boughs, elders told stories of the brave woodcarver who had ventured into Silvara, and travelers came from distant lands to see the marvel that was Brannick's tree. The village became a place of pilgrimage, and the story of Thalos and the Tree of Light spread far and wide. People brought their own offerings to the tree, adorning its branches with tokens of gratitude and hope. Each year, as the first snow fell, the villagers lit candles around its base, their soft glow reflecting the light of the tree above. And so the legend of the first Christmas tree endured, a tale of courage, wisdom, and the enduring power of sacrifice. Its light shone brightly in the hearts of all who heard it, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, the smallest spark of hope could grow into something magnificent.